All right, welcome everyone to this episode of Your Freedom Hub's Free Market Cash Patient. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with Charles Frohman. We're sponsored by the Marketplace for Health, Wealth, and Freedom, which is found at your-mp.com, and you'll certainly see it is the disruptor's intersection. We do have a problem out there in the healthcare world. I think most people have figured it out by now, and in truth, you can kind of interchange the name on that character in the middle. That's the disruptor between the patient and the doctor. And then, of course, as we've been finding out, there's a ton of information and misinformation and deliberate misinformation and false information, accidental information. You just have to figure it out on your own and do as much homework. And we do have another show. It's very cutting edge during the day on Wednesdays. It's on freedom issues. So certainly check it out here, the archives. And again, you're going to want to come to the main website, but beforehand, as a quick detour, if you do want to learn a bit about a special cutting edge health program, you're going to want to go to patientempowerment.mpb.health. All right, let's take a quick look at the site before we get into today's guest. So again, if you come to your-mp.com, there's a lot of great stuff to look at here with all these drop downs. We're adding information all the time. Under the home page is the webinar area. So you'll see it says webinars and then continuing the conversation. Let's start there for a minute. This is for after the fact. So once you've heard one of these great speakers and you want to start to jump in bed and help them out one way or another, you'll click on any of the links related to them and figure out how to connect with them, communicate, blog, lobby, donate, whatever it might take. And then also under the Freedom tab is Fighting for Our Freedom, another key area, because this is where we want to support the other organizations that are fighting for individual liberty. And this is an expanding list. You'll see there's a lot of great stuff here as well. And most of the pages have videos and the like at the bottom. So there's a lot of other great resources here. But let's take a peek at today. So coming back to the webinar page, there's a little intro about the events. Then here's the breakout on who the guest is for today. Just scroll down a little bit. Here's coming up, so you can kind of look at your calendar and plan to attend in the future. And then very importantly, at the bottom are the links where the video gets posted after it's edited. So by the first of the week, it'll be on all four of these channels. So on that note, let's roll into what's going on with today and see what Charles has to say about our guest, John.
Yes, indeed, Jeff. Welcome, John Troutman. We're excited to have this topic tonight because being in the employee benefit space that Jeff and I are in every day for the past year during the COVID hysteria, there have been article after article about mental health. Employees want better benefits at work to help their stress. And let's face it, this has been a crazy year. And what John's niche is the benefit you slap on for behavioral health or mental counseling can't be cookie cutter. These stresses and people's needs are really wide open. The breadth is incredible. Their needs differ. Sometimes they're ineffable. You can't put words on them. So the entrepreneurs in the mental benefit space really have to do their homework, curate, individualize, personalize, and really figure out what is a mental benefit that an employee or an individual will actually use. Because so often with these add-ons or benefits, the workers don't use them because they're not explained well, they're not sold well, or they just don't meet demand. And John is a great entrepreneur, and we like him because he really likes our company. Jeff and I in our commercial lives work at Empowering Benefits, which we got featured in Forbes for creating cash patients, replacing insurance with sharing, and adding through a couple of key movements, tax advantage health savings accounts to help people become cash patients and hold in our hand. And we're constantly adding bells and whistles to that plan to figure out what does the patient really need. And all of us at MPB really love this employee assistant plan world that's new to us, that John seems to be a leader in. And Mr. Troutman himself has a really interesting background. He was a really successful pastor for years. And you know, pastors and reverends and preachers and priests, they really know how to communicate with their congregation. They're always helping the families in difficult straits. They know how to communicate and lift people up. So that seems to be the perfect background for that, you know, cutting edge behavioral health employee assistant world that he dominates. He is the national marketing director for Mazzini and Sullivan, which is a big company in that space. They're a big company with other services that John can discuss. But that's what we're here to discuss. You know, the need is there and growing because of the crazy COVID year. It already was there before COVID, but you can't have a cookie cutter mental health benefit. It really takes a lot of homework to do it right. So Jeff, that's our program tonight.
Fantastic, John. You're a great solution. So let's dig into it a little bit and find out a bit more. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and give you control.
Excellent. Again, Jeff and Charles, I really appreciate this opportunity. As you'll find out in this time, or if you're following me on LinkedIn, which I encourage everyone to do, I do openly talk about my past. I talk about what the world perceives as failures, and I try to explain how we all have those moments in business and life, and addressing those things along the way. Mental health is something that's top of mind for me because I burned out, and you'll be hearing about that soon. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right in here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So like many of you who are watching this live or watching it recorded, you're a passionate person. You believe in helping people out. You enjoy investing in your community. You're passionate about your country. And that was me. And for 27 years, I've been married. And not for 19 and a half of those years, I was a pastor. And as Charles explained very briefly, you know, I was very committed at the same church, the same place, same community, heavily involved in volunteering for emergency management. I was a director in that area for a number of years. But I also come from a background of workaholics. My great-grandfather was in World War II. He was in Bastogne. My other grandfather was in the steel mills in Pittsburgh. So it came naturally for me to be taught how to work hard from early on. I had a paper route at the age of 11. I don't think that's even legal anymore. But nobody taught me how to handle my stress. So I just would always add one more thing, do one more thing, accomplish another task. And over time, it added up to the point where I lost my career. The people did not understand what was going on. I was advised to take a 6-month sabbatical when in life I never took a full 1-week vacation and turned my phone off. So being told to do that, to take this 6-month sabbatical, was very foreign. I wasn't even capable at the time of processing that, being burned out. And I was fried. And long story short, it took me multiple years to get out of that. And that's why I want to share with everyone here, before we dig into the modeling and the EAPs that are out there, ways that you can lower your stress right now. Unless you're living in some cave in some remote location, you have some form of added stress, and left unchecked, it can affect the rest of your life, both mentally and physically. And we're going to talk about that here. So stress is a major thing right now for everyone's lives. This is recent data. It actually came out in December. Most people you'll see on LinkedIn and other formats will use data stating that 20% are dealing with a mental health issue. That's not accurate data. The data that you're seeing here, 40.9 reported at least one adverse mental or behavioral health condition. 15% have admitted they're consuming more alcohol at this time than they were last year. 10.7%, and this one is very concerning, 10.7% reported seriously considering suicide in the last 30 days. Now, you can break those numbers down to any size group, those percentages. That's a lot of people that are thinking about killing themselves. At Mazzini and Sullivan EAP, our phones have been ringing much more than in other years. In fact, some of our business groups are getting like 76% utilization rates as a company. So the rates are up, the usage is up, but our prices have remained the same, which is very interesting. But if you can break down that percentage that I just talked about, and you can think about a 35 employer group or 75 size group, this is what it translates to. So I know I have many great connections with benefit advisors and people in the insurance world and others who deal with various size groups. Think about these numbers the next time you are in these size groups. I'm not going to read them for you, but those are very serious numbers and they shouldn't be treated just as numbers. My cousin committed suicide when COVID started 2 months in because of his job and the stress, and he couldn't handle it. He did not die from COVID. He died because of behavioral health. And we do not know the full extent of what will be happening in our country and around the world because no one on the planet has been exempt from what's been going on. So we're going to talk about stress. We're going to talk about stress. You can see that tree bending in the breeze. It's a condition or feeling experienced when a person perceives that the demands are exceeding our personal and social resources. Have you felt like that tree at all in the last year? That definition, it's exceeding your resources. It can also be seen and perceived, and think about these areas that it can be impacted in your life. Because as Jeff started our discussion here today, we're talking about the life issues because they translate over into business and every other area of our lives. So stress can be seen manifested emotionally, physically, psychologically, financially, personally, and at work, and also obviously every aspect of life. So there's no area that can be exempt as well. So we also need to be cautious is throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, because stress can be a very positive thing for us. It's not just a negative thing. It can help drive for a stronger ending. I refer to my Fridays as finish strong Fridays. I love ending my week on a very positive note. Makes for a great Monday start, makes for a much more enjoyable weekend. But stress can also be a positive in those endings. They can help prepare us for events, whether it's weather or any other type of activity or event in preparation. There's also a chemical issue that takes place by the chemical being produced in your body that actually feeds your brain and releases endorphins, and it helps you, creates a positive response in that pressure. It also can improve efficiencies because the time is shorter or the end is near. And that data shows our starts and endings, we are more motivated for greater results. So it's not always a negative. There are some positive aspects of stress, but like in a lot of areas of business and life, too much of one thing can lead to some bad things. And just to give you an idea of what I went through, when I say that I was clinically diagnosed with burnout, it didn't mean that I was feeling a little stressed and I needed a break. I was working for 19 and a half years at the same church. There was a lot of issues going on, and I was left a lot of times when other staff were fired, and there was a lot of things going on, and I never took care of myself the way I should have. So as you look at this list and all these 4 areas, believe it or not, most of these, here again, just being transparent, I went through most of these at some form or another coming out of burnout or while I was dealing with burnout. They were very dark, dark days. So burnout is very real. It can affect your mind, your behaviors, your emotions, your body. Multiple people were reaching out to me saying, what's going on? You're not yourself. And when you are the person who's going through the mental health, you think you're fine. You think that everything is what it should be, and you can't even see yourself as you really are. Now, I'll equate it this way because I did have COVID. I did get the brain fog out of it, and things weren't clear. That was more unclear than when I was going through burnout because I thought I was fine when really there was a lot of terrible things going on that I needed to deal with one at a time. So you're here today, you're struggling with stress, maybe in a small way, maybe in a large way. First of all, one of the great things we can do to improve that is to recognize the tyranny of the present. So what am I talking about that? Understanding that we should be laying out timelines for our days and sticking to those things. Understanding that the tyranny of the urgent, what is that thing that I really have to get done today? And recognizing that not everything that's on your list tomorrow needs to stay on that list. And there might be some things that need added to that list to take care of you. And that may even include a pause. So recognizing that is a great place to start. Another part is coming to grips with, is it really necessary? You know, we do a lot of things in business and life that's activity, but is it productive? Productivity and activity are two different things. I know many people around the country that have been incredibly busy during COVID for business, but yet they'll tell me in the next breath, they haven't been as productive. Why is that? Because with all the different activities going on, it's up to us to decide what things in our daily schedules are really necessary, figuring out the most important things, the least important things, and really filtering out that list of what is most important each and every day. And that may require hitting a reset on your calendar. You know, I am a very detailed person when it comes to my calendar. I don't like mixing things up. And I still struggle to this day in hitting reset when I know I need to take a pause. And I'll talk about that later. The power of a pause, the power of a short break can be very beneficial to us. So, but making sure we're being sensitive to where we are emotionally with our own stress level and being willing to hit the pause, hit the reset button. You know, I need to take this 5-minute break right now. I'm not a person who takes many breaks, but I need to take more. In fact, I'll just say it now so we get it in here. The data screams, if you take a 10-minute break, turn off your cell phone and just have it be silent time, not focused time, maybe it is a walk, you'll be 87% more productive when you return. 10-minute break, 87% improved productivity. So why don't I do that? I need reminded myself, to be frank. So our fourth tip, understanding and coming to grips with your operational rhythm. So, you know, I really don't believe there is such a thing called work-life balance. I never liked the term because no matter how you have a day, one day or the next, it looks like it's unbalanced. So just so that we can understand, I like to refer to a rhythm. I used to pitch, and a pitcher's rhythm was essential to getting into a flow of a game. Now, what do I mean by my best operating rhythm? I mean your daily schedule. And I know we don't have time for it on today's call, but I want to encourage everyone who's watching this, whether you're live or whether it's a recorded version, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, pull out a sheet of paper or use your computer and write out a typical schedule that you would say would be an ideal schedule for your day to be most productive. So what I mean by my best operating rhythm is finding out what makes me be most successful, least stressed, is waking up at 4 o'clock, being at the gym by 5:30, at the latest 6 o'clock, having my breakfast afterwards, going through my day of preparation for whatever is in my day. And by 7:30, I'm working on business development and whatever I may be doing for work that day. That is essential for me. The best way to wrap up my day is also to pause at the end and take 15 minutes and reflect. You know, there's a reason why the kings of old had scribes write the events of the day down. And at the end of the day, it would be read back to them, the events of the day. It's therapeutic, yes, but it also lowers your stress and knowing, wow, we actually did get a lot of things done today. Or no, we still have a lot of work to do tomorrow. Let's make a note of that. So that's a snapshot of my operational rhythm. Again, if anyone wants to know more of how I drill that down on a daily snapshot, you can email me and I'll be glad to share that in much more greater detail. We see that quote by Mark Twain there on point 5, scheduling the most challenging tasks first. Now, I'm not just talking about, oh no, we've got this thing, let's just get it out of the way. Yes, that's beneficial, but there is a great sense of achievement, a great sense of fulfillment. And again, it's a chemical thing, releasing the endorphins, knowing we have the most difficult task the most challenging task behind us. I'm not saying we hit the cruise button here. I'm not saying that we back off the throttle and not give it our best effort. Yes, we should give it our best effort. But when we conquer those most challenging things first, it does create a less stressful environment for the rest of the day. Now, I've talked about this very lightly before when I talked about taking a break, protecting time for unconscious thought. Now, again, this is an area that I'm still working on. I know the data. I know what it screams. I've walked the road, and it's still a challenge for me, even though I know this, to make myself pause. We get uncomfortable with a pause. Many of us do. I know I do. We live in a fast-paced world, and if you're in business or business development or any type of sales position, time is money, and it can be very difficult to pause. But I'm telling you, when I take my Irish setter Mac for a 10-minute walk, I try desperately to turn my phone off or leave it at the house. And I have found my greatest ideas come to me, my most creative thoughts and concepts come to me when I'm not even trying to think about them. And I've turned my brain off from my normal business day flow, if you will. So I understand that not everyone out there has an Irish setter, but take that time for an unconscious thought. It's not going to be focused on anything. You're just going to allow your mind to wander, and you'll be amazed at what happens and what good ideas can come your way. Now, again, all of these 10 tips could very easily be a 40-minute discussion. So I'm giving you a very light version here, but establishing and protecting boundaries. You know, again, we live in a world where people often get offended when we just explain our boundaries are there, let alone explaining why they're there and going into greater detail. Having boundaries, the ability to put and protect those things. So a boundary is not an offensive weapon. A boundary is defensive, but many times people perceive them as offensive, and that's where the challenge comes in. So I'm encouraging everyone here to make sure that you're sticking to those boundaries. When you figure out what your best daily rhythm is, to stick to it. Because if you don't protect and defend yourself, many times no one else will. So understanding that, establishing and keeping those boundaries, and a big part of that is being surgical with your yes and your no. You know, I know many people in business who are very eager to say yes, and it's hard for them to say no. In fact, they will give me an entire paragraph or paragraphs. It's their no, but they've never said those two letters together, no. So being surgical about that, sticking to it. You might be excellent and passionate in volunteering. That doesn't mean you have to do everything. So if you are a person out there today who struggles in saying no, and it might sound crazy, but it's not, stand in front of your mirror and practice saying in front of the mirror until you can say it more comfortably in front of a live person. We need to be surgical about that. It helps us protect it, protect ourselves, protect our families, protect our business. So be surgical with our yes and no. The data says that we are distracted 30 times an hour if you are in business in the United States. Now, I don't know what those 30 things are for you, but with COVID, it's included Ring doorbells, deliveries, and the list can go on. So it can be very easy to be distracted. And I want to encourage you, if you are still working at home, or if you are like me and you've always worked out of your home, place yourself in the best position. I've talked about daily rhythm. What about your place where there are the least amount of distractions? I'm in my home office here. I was going to be in a different room, but I chose not to be in the other room because of possibly raining and a thunderstorm during this time. I would be easily distracted. My neighbor also chose to power wash his house, so I would be easily distracted. You have the keys to place yourself in the best position for success. Understanding what distractions could be there and placing yourself in those situations as well as physical locations can be very, very helpful. And also remember this, because I did not take this into account when I was burned out and it reached that point. If someone could have pulled me aside before I was at my lowest point, I believe this would have helped. But remembering that our actions affect others. you can see in that image there of the reflection in the pool and the droplet going in there, every action we take does affect someone else, especially when we talk about a business, right? So for me in business development, director of marketing, what I say here is going to affect my entire company. We're a subsidy of Pyramid Behavioral Healthcare. That could affect them as well, depending on what I say or how I act. So understanding that can lower stress, if nothing else, to realize making wise choices, making wise statements can prevent much worse things from happening and other things from taking place. So our actions affect much more than just ourselves. And EAPs can be a part of this. Now, I'm not on here to belittle or berate my competitors. I will let them to do that for me. But there are great benefits in any EAP plan. However, if you don't get anything else in our time that's left, please understand this. Not every EAP provider is the same. And we use the same language, but it's interpreted differently. So if you're an employer watching this, understanding the terms, what does utilization mean? What type of technology is being used? What is a session and how long is it? You know, Mazzetti and Sullivan EAP, when we talk about sessions, we're talking about an hour. And that's so that the end user gets the best benefit from that. A lot of my competitors offer 30-minute sessions, and they'll often come out with a lower price. Well, that's why. So understanding that, we also offer renewable sessions. That's a different concept, which is another explanation altogether. So understanding key terms, just like you would when you would be buying a home or buying another benefit, understanding the terminologies are very, very important for you, your family, and your business, especially all of your employees. So we've been able to work with Rod Maxson, and again, as Charles talked about, and again, I need to make a correction. I love working with MPB. I spent time with them. I've worked with them closely, literally face-to-face in Florida, and I think what they're doing is an absolute fantastic job. They are passionate, like we are, about families' lives, and they're doing a great work in Florida. So I wanted to take a moment and just lightly review this section here. So when you're talking about EAP services and what benefit they provide at MPB and their member assistance plan, and if you're watching this and you are an MPB member, you have an MAP, a member assistance program. So that means you're always going to get a live person. That chart in the far right that says typical embedded EAP plan, that's something that oftentimes gets included in a life insurance policy. I'm not condemning life insurance policies that have those. Something is better than nothing. I don't know about you, but when things go sideways in my life, I want to talk to a live person. That adds more stress if I have to wait for all the prompts and press star and be on hold or have to leave a voicemail message. Those things do occur in other plans. So knowing that you're going to get a live person 24/7, 365, that no matter who you talk to on the other end of the call is critical incident stress management certified so that they can handle literally any life challenge you're dealing with to help navigate you to get the best solution with the best clinician, either face-to-face at a brick and mortar location, over the phone, or virtually. So this plan covers not just the person, the subscriber, but it covers the entire household, which is oftentimes unheard of in some life insurance plans. There also is a website for work-life resources. I've talked about those different types of assessments, renewable sessions. So what that means is this. We have found at Mazzetti and Sullivan EAP that oftentimes in trying to solve one life challenge, it really wasn't the main issue. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. So they've uncovered other things and they needed more sessions. So what we've done with MPB is offer a renewable session model. So you could have those 4 sessions, take a 2-month break to put those coaching principles into practice. And then after that 2-month break from that last session, they would renew. And and you would get another 4 sessions, which means you could have 12 sessions, or that family of 5 or that household of 5 could potentially have 60 sessions. That's unheard of in EAP. So it's a great value to talk about any of those life challenges that they may be dealing with. So there are virtual orientations for any group, if there will be an employer group involved. There is an online chat feature. So when you're talking to a person, or if you don't feel like talking to a person over a phone call, you can actually go to that website and use that chat box to talk to that person. A couple of these deal with employer groups. I'm not sure, again, who our entire audience would be or will be. So you can take note of those. One thing that is imperative to know for employers especially is that you will have access to using our critical incident stress management service on site. We have seen a terrible increase in deaths on site, employees taking their lives at the workplace. So for a reduced cost, reduced additional costs, we would be there on site. Typically it's within 24 hours, regardless of where you are in the country, to support that employer group to make that transition. Number one, to deal with that terrible situation, but also be able to make that transition to back to work. So that's a tremendous, tremendous value. So the last 2 areas I just want to touch on very briefly is elder care and elder law. We have a nation that is aging, and a large group of people that are aging and need care. And people who are taking care of them, they don't know what options are available. Again, I'm going to be transparent. I needed to contact this service for my father. He's a Korean War veteran, and I needed to know what his options may be because he served faithfully our country and in the military, what options he would have moving forward for where he is at this current point in life. So that's what the certified elder care and elder law value is. Talking to a person who actually is a part of the legal team can guide you through that elder care, can be very comforting and lower your stress. So it lowered mine. Now that certified financial wellness, these are not people that are going to try to upsell you products and services. They're not going to try to steer you towards stocks, bonds, or those types of investments. These are certified people that are not additional costs. Again, it's all included, that can help you decide between should you buy a home or should you rent? Should you lease a car? Should you buy? How can you get out of debt in 5 years as opposed to 10? Those types of life challenges. So this is a very robust plan. It is not something that I'm aware of even exists in any type of embedded plan, like a life insurance policy or something like that. So we're very, very proud to work with our partners at MPB to offer this. So I really want to take time and be available for your questions, because you may have something that in the course of the discussion that Kim, you want to talk about. So Charles, I'll turn it back to you and leave it open for questions.
All right, very good, John. This is Jeff. That was very good for sure. And boy, is it needed ever more so. It's funny how your perfect storm arose. And here, look at even today, there was that guy that shot up his work. He got all upset and stressed out. So same thing, you know, just it's stress is incredible. It's hard for everyone to understand how people pop, you know, even when you're doing it sometimes yourself, you get mad and you're like, I can't believe I'm getting this mad, but somehow you can't seem to control it anyway. So I hear you loud and clear. Charles, I see your hand up.
Indeed. That big list of employee assistance, or in the case of Jeff and me, for individual families, member assistance. Can you go more into the assistance for employees at the workplace? I saw a number of options there, including supervisor consultations, leadership coaching. Can you kind of give a couple examples of where that could come into play to be helpful? Because, I know we've all got stories of failure in our own lives. And I remember ending up being a manager of a lobbying team for a trade association in DC back in the late 90s. And I guess I ran into what people call the Peter principle. You rise to your incompetence. And there was all kinds of HR intervention to coach me to learn some of the things that I was supposed to be doing. And eventually learned I didn't want to do. But does that help kind of, what I'm looking for here?
Sure, and feel free to ask again if I'm not drilling this down fine enough. With all of our corporate clients, we're going to meet with that leadership team first so they understand the benefit that their employees will receive. And the reason we meet with that leadership team first is they're typically the ones who are fielding these questions or concerns by the employees. So we want them to understand it so they can explain it again. So after that happens, we have an orientation. And again, these are all, we have no hidden fees with our employer groups. So the price is what it is when you're looking at it. So we would meet with all the employees, whether it's face-to-face, virtually, wherever, depending on where they are in the country, and explain it to them so that we can begin the process of utilization. So the average utilization rate across the country is around 5%, which is incredibly low. Our average utilization rate going into COVID was about 13%. So we have much higher rates. We had a lot of clients who were in the 20s and some higher percentages. And I mentioned, during COVID, we've got a couple of groups that are in the 70 percentile. So every employer group will get a client solution specialist assigned to them. It's one person. It's the same person. Granted, they could call our office 24/7, 365, as you spoke of, Charles, any HR question under the sun. As long as we're not requiring to go back and create an assessment for them, it's included in the plan. So you spoke of challenges in management. Yeah, every manager has a challenge. I had them as a senior pastor. So being able to know that you can contact another resource at no cost that's going to have your back and it's confidential. That's why a lot of people who are in supervisory roles or in other C-class roles, they don't use an EAP because they're concerned about being found out that they're weak or they have some lack. So again, we offer that in our plans for the employer group packages that they can contact us 24/7. That leadership coaching and consulting, I talked about that type of support, but what that also can mean is many employers are dealing with employees that need to be mandated. And what I mean by that is they need to go meet with a counselor if they want to keep their job. They would actually go through the legal framework. We would walk that employer through that process to explain to the employee that we're not forcing them to get counseling, but if they want to keep their job, these are some outcomes that they need to get. Would they like to get counseling? Would they agree and sign off to get counseling willingly to reach those objectives? So, and we would then take the hand of that employee and walk them through that entire process. That oftentimes is over a year. So when you see that type of HR support, that type of coaching and consulting that's going on with those HR people is very beneficial to them because it lowers their stress that they're having to take on from all the employees. So I could go on there, Charles, but is that helpful?
It is. And Jeff, I got some follow-ups unless you have some other questions.
No, go for it.
So explain a couple scenarios where the engagement initiated by the member or the employee with you, there might be some online or telephonic counseling, but they needed to transition to the face-to-face. How does that work? And then my other question is, this gets into like a dynamic around telemedicine. The percentages of effectiveness. What you just gave is pretty stark. The success and engagement and utilization of your option versus some competitors. That big difference. Explain how you get that higher engagement utilization. It's the same problem with telemedicine. With our Cirrus MD virtual DPC, the engagement is much higher, and that's a worry with bosses and benefit managers is you're slapping on a benefit that doesn't get utilized.
Exactly. That's a great point. So we never want to be merely a vendor that's working with an employer. We strive to be a business partner. So building relationships is key to our success and the success of our corporate clients. So from day one, in meeting with that group and meeting with that leadership team, our client solution specialist will be asking questions. What are some struggles that you've had to deal with? What are some pains that you've had to addressed in the last 5 years in HR? What types of trainings have you done? So one of the things that help keep us top of mind, Charles, is that we're there. A lot of my competitors will never be there. We will be there either virtually or physically to meet with them, to develop that relationship, to understand what's going on so that we can implement the appropriate trainings to help address those things. So most of our plans offer several hours of training, and those are provided. They can be customized. I'm not talking about a recorded broadcast, if you will. I'm talking about a customized plan that is live, either virtual, face-to-face, depending on the client's needs, that can address the topics that they have in HR. Maybe it's transitioning from a buddy scenario at work, and now you're a boss. What's involved in that process? So we do a lot of work in preventing issues with our training. So from day one, it's that relationship model, regularly checking in on a quarterly basis, oftentimes, with that employer group, understanding what's going on, and managing that relationship along the way. So that's a big differentiator. When an individual contacts us, they're also going to be asked many questions to understand the demographics as well as the comfort level. Like, who do you want to see? What type of problem you have? Would you like to see a male or female? Is faith a part of the equation? And we can drill it down in our system, the best provider that's available.
Jeff, should I keep going?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you got another question, or I was just going to say, anybody else, please raise your hand and we'll field that one too. Go for it.
Or folks, if you don't see the raise hand icon under the reactions tab, you can just unmute yourself and say, I've got a question.
That's fine.
So you answered how you move from virtual to in-person. That's pretty impressive. Now, how about members getting our, sharing HSA plan to save some money and get powerful benefits? We're really encouraging them to reach out to you and learn about your services. What can a member of ours do in initiating a call with you to find out more about your services and maybe have sort of a counseling kind of conversation to get to know each other, to figure out whether they even need any counseling?
Yeah, that's great. So again, to clarify, more times than not, people are contacting us and they actually don't need counseling. They're feeling a little stressed about something in the moment, and they just need to talk to somebody. They need to understand or realize that someone's all alongside them at this moment, this challenge in life, and just being able to talk to somebody. So as I referred to earlier, maybe it's a person going through a move. Maybe it's a person who's struggling with childcare and they just need to talk to somebody. Whatever that life challenge may be, they're going to get a live person. And oftentimes just that discussion erodes that perceived need of having a session. Now, granted, all of our staff is trained to assess that situation. And by no means are we trying to talk them out of a session. We're just trying to understand what's really going on and help that person at the exact moment by which they called. So what can they do? They can call us. They can exercise a live chat feature. Just simply by starting that discussion can go a long way in understanding. And again, by contacting MPB, they will also direct you to that work life page, if you will, or that life challenge page where these 20,000 tools are located. And you can see all of the resources that are available, from things like recipes. There are various trainings that can help, that actually can be certified trainings to help with things that are actually in business as well. Calculators. So a lot of tools that are there to help lower stress and to help manage the challenges in life.
Last question here. Reading your list here, which is great. It seems to me that one marketing pitch one could include for folks considering upgrading their plans would be around your financial wellness and sort of getting a life plan together, which I guess is what happens when you talk to a coach. What do people really need to do to map out their life and to figure out what they're good at so they can get some achievable goals? How do you frame that kind of plan? How do you characterize that kind of plan? And is that something that you guys can include in this?
Yeah, so we have a great national network of life coaches. All of our counselors are master level clinicians with years of experience behind them. So they can cover all of these topics. So quite frankly, it is a challenge to cover all of the areas that we offer in our services, to be frank about it. But yes, by contacting us and getting a session set up, whatever life challenge you're dealing with, right now, a lot of people feel like they're in a fog. Finding some direction is very crucial. So contacting us and being able to talk to that live person, getting up a counseling session and getting that type of interaction can go a long way.
Thanks, Jeff. That sounds like a good marketing pitch. Well, we're empowering you not just to be protected from catastrophic expenses and have those cash accounts for out of pocket, but get control of your life. Earn a life coach. Wow, I like that idea.
Well, yeah. Can I take a moment on that?
Please.
So when I was going through burnout, I made some of the worst financial decisions of my life, the absolute worst. And I'm not giving myself a rubber stamp here, but the reality was because I was burned out, because my mental health was not where it should be. So it is imperative if people are going through whatever those challenges are, that they reach out to us, because it's not oftentimes the tip of the iceberg, if you will, of why that person's contacting us. It's something else. And we're committed to finding out the root of the issue to get the greatest result for the individual. So that's another differentiator and the value we bring, quite frankly, to all of our clients.
No, it's really good in what you're describing, because, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to try to have that conversation with my spouse. Well, but the problem is you're both kind of in that boat together, so you're not going to be able to be too helpful. Yeah. And then what are you talk to your friends and stuff? They're not trained and they don't know the whole ins and outs of it. And a lot of you don't even want to tell them anyway. You'd be embarrassed. So it's really vital. And as you've seen and has been exposed, because the minute somebody had more time on their hands than they realized, that's when everybody suddenly started to realize they were a little bit crazy, maybe. Or just having that time made them crazy because they were calm and at rest, going to work and doing my little routine, and suddenly it's all disrupted. And like you said, you don't really think it's all screwed up, but it took like a whole year being locked up in their house for people to suddenly start to come unglued in some instances. So very interesting for sure. Well, that was great. We are so excited to have you be a part of what we're doing, and we be a part of what you're doing, because like Charles commented earlier, it totally rounds out. People buy health insurance and what we're doing because they're worried about if they get sick or have a heart attack, but that's like the last thing that's going to really happen. What you're doing here is going to happen way more often than me even catching a cold. So it's great to be a part of it.
I might add, Jeff,
please.
John, give your pitch. What kind of prospects are you looking for to reach out to as they see this recording later?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Again, our greatest results are with businesses that have a person that's dedicated to HR, employers that are wearing multiple hats. It's a real challenge for them. So sometimes we just get pushed to the side and we aren't even allowed in to explain the benefits that we've actually sold to that business. So it can be a challenge. Now, that being said, we support groups of any size. Our largest client is over 30,000 lives, and our smallest is about 3 lives. So we will not turn any size company away. And as long as you're in the United States, Canada, or Mexico, we can help you out.
That's super. And the fact that you don't discriminate on size, because a lot of people say, well, if it's 50 and below, forget it. I don't want to bother. But those are oftentimes ones that need to help the most, because they're the smaller businesses with way more stresses than somebody just has to punch a clock somewhere. And it's just not to say there's not stress at working at GM, but it's a lot less hassle than trying to keep your restaurant rolling.
And Jeff, do you want to show that patientempowerment.mpb.health site so folks can know how to get Mazzini and Sullivan through a better health plan?
Let's take a quick gander at that. So that's if you come here. And in fact, let me grab this. Let's open it on up.
So for about $200 to $400 individual family, you'll get major medical, tax advantage health savings accounts out of pocket, and a whole bunch of other things, virtual DPC. And for all of your life care needs, John Troutman's company. It's a pretty nice package. Not to mention a QR code, medical vault, concierge shopping assistant, free preventive for the HSA version.
Super special prescription prices.
Is that loading? If it's not loading, slow. That's the website.
It's slow today, but that's the site. You'll come take a look. It's posted. All right, everybody. John, that was great. Thank you so much for today.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate all you're doing.